Well, welcome once more to Finesse's YouTube channel, and I say welcome back if you're somebody who watched the first video where we did a tour of the boat before Ricky at Finesse took it down to Crick to the boat show. Today I'm excited again. I've got the chance to be the first to sail the boat on the Thames before it's handed to its owners later today. The story so far is that Ricky was successful, and we're delighted to know that the boat won the award at the show. A great tribute to the craftsmen up in Sheffield who put their hearts and soul into this boat. And what we're going to do is answer some of the questions from that video, and also to show you how the boat sails. So let's head to the back and we'll get on with some sailing. And as we do that, I can tell you that the boat left on a crane from Crick. Got some pictures to show you as we made our way north back to Sheffield for a couple of weeks, where the boat's final tweaks and testing was done, and then back on the lorry, and the photos here will show it going into the Thames for the very first time. And now we get the chance to sail the boat, to see how manoeuvrable she is. And let's give it a go, Ricky, shall we? Here I am at the controls, and I'll show you around the controls and the display. The main screen in front of you will have surround camera views, and once you're away from the dock, you can then just move that across and have a moving map display connected to the GPS, so you know where you are on the rivers or the canals. And quite cool features, sliding to the side gives you an inbuilt checklist for the boat, and then one more swipe across gives you all the electrics of the boat, like the generator, the solar, and the battery charge, all that you need to know. Other things then round on the control system, up in the top corner, standard control switches and the rudder gauge. The motor is started with keyless entry, so we can just start that up. You'll see the little screen on the right come into life, and that gives us all our motor controls. The N there, for example, in the middle is showing that the motor is at neutral. Handy little space for putting your phone or your maps, that sort of thing. And then over on the left hand side, microphone down here for the marine RT, Morse control for your power, a brushless bow thruster. That means you can have it on a little bit, it's variable, or you could have it the whole way on, and you can lock it on at any setting that you like. Makes docking very easy. And then down here the marine RT, which also includes a GPS, which means it has traffic avoidance alerts if you're on commercial routes, and also a cool feature for if you've dropped the anchor down, you can have an anchor alert to your phone, so at night you don't have to worry is the boat drifting, because if it did, it would send alert to your phone. You don't have to keep waking up and looking out the window just to make sure that you haven't moved. My intention is I'm going to pre-position the tiller, I'm going to use a little bit of bow thruster, and hopefully we'll just be able to come away gently from the side in a nice parallel way. Let's see how it works. So here we go. A little bit of bow thruster to get the nose moving, then I'm going to match that with a little bit of RPM on the prop, so that we should move out. Oh yeah, that was easy. Move out nice and parallel. Now the bow thruster is variable, so you might even be able to hear I can actually increase that, match it with the propeller, and that's really easy. We're not moving forwards at all. If I was in a tight mooring spot, back that bow thruster off now. And we're on our way. In fact, it's a good opportunity for me to show you just how manoeuvrable the boat is, because I'll immediately turn it 180 degrees round from this spot. know the back's not going to hit. I'll put a bit of tiller on as well. I tell you what, Ricky, that's fantastic. It just almost turns at its own length. On my narrow boat, my bow thruster is just on and off, and I can really see the advantage of this. I'll put a bit of check there's nobody coming. In fact, there's so much inertia in the turn there. I'm going to take the bow thruster off, see how it keeps turning with just the tiller and the rudder. Always nice to see Ricky left behind. As we approach our first lock, our intention with the movie is to show you some of the boats sailing, and also, rather than just watching that, we'll include some of the great questions that were asked at Crick and from our first video, and try and give you a little bit of information as the trip goes on. So there we go, our very first lock. And I'm glad with Ricky watching, I didn't smack it into the gate. There we go, now keep it nice and straight. In honesty, I did give a tweak of bow thruster just to put us right in the middle of the lock and make sure we came out straight. It is very manoeuvrable, that's great. Ricky will be pleased I didn't scratch it. There we go, first lock survived.
So you survive your first lock. How is it cruising along?
Yeah, well, fantastic. I mean, my first impressions are actually the owners are going to be thrilled, absolutely thrilled. The steering's light, the steering's easy, it's quiet, as you can probably hear on the video, and going through the lock, docking, coming away from the side with the bow thruster. I was expecting it to be manoeuvrable in that we had to go up on the canals briefly in Sheffield, which we'll cut a little video into, but I hadn't realised just how manoeuvrable it was. To be able to turn the boat almost at its own length was great. All the controls come full nicely to hand, and I like the fact you made me a cup of tea as well. Yourself, Ricky, when I was looking at we had some great questions when we did the tour of the boat for Crick that came in. So, for example, I think it was a little shout out for Nick, who sent a message in saying that she was concerned. Well, how would I get out if I was at the front of the boat and there was an emergency? Because when she visited at Crick, she didn't see a door. So what's the answer to that?
So there's a hatch in the bow of the boat, which allows the occupants to escape if the worst happens.
I've got you. And is that the one in the master cabin, right at the front, which I'd previously just seen really as an opening skylight?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that opens electrically, and there's a manual override if the worst happens and the power fails.
I've got you. Great. Lots of questions I noticed about electrics. So, for example, how long would the battery last? How long would you need to run do you need to run the generator all the time? Would I need to be plugged into shore power all year when I was at the marina? Those sorts of things. Now, what's your experience with both this boat at Sheffield and all the other electric boats that you've made at Finesse?
So cruising along a day like today, you would probably get 15 to 20 hours cruise time. That's
wow.
Assuming there's no sun, much like today. If there's sun, then obviously you can cruise for longer than that.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I can see on here, okay, we're just enjoying pottering along, but we're using 2.5 kilowatts, and even though it's a dull, horrible day, we've still got 1500 watts of solar energy. So actually we could almost go all day like this, couldn't we?
Yes, that's right. You're depleting the battery at a very slow rate at cruising speeds like this.
Okay. And if I needed to go faster because I'm in a current or it's getting dark, and I had a lot more power on, how long would the batteries last, you know, if I were needing to go quicker?
So up to about 10 kilowatts of power,
Yeah.
The generator wouldn't kick in. Once you exceed that point, then the generator would automatically start charging the batteries anyway.
Okay. Okay.
So at that point you've got almost infinite range
As
at 10
much
kilowatts.
fuel as you've got on board.
Yes.
And I know earlier you were telling me that it uses about 1 or 2 litres an hour, depending on the load it's under.
We also take the rejected heat from the generator and put that into the hot water tank to warm up for domestic hot water.
So while you were talking, I was doing a little bit of maths there and thinking, actually, if I'd sailed typically today, and I wanted to start with full batteries in the morning because I got a long day of sailing, that I would probably be running maybe the generator for an hour in the evening, which would give me free hot water as well, type thing.
That's right, yes.
And presumably, if I thought, well, look, we're sitting out here dining in the evening, I don't want the generator running, I could just run it for the last hour of my cruising, and actually everything's ready for showering that night and batteries fully charged for the morning. Yes,
exactly that. With a large battery bank like this, it's completely up to the user when you decide to run the generator.
Got you. And another question which was sent in on electrics, which I thought was good, was if I was parked up in the marina, I have my shore power on, and the question was really about how much solar do you get? How many months of the year would I really need to use the shore power, and how many months would the solar keep the boat topped up and the Wi-Fi and the fridge and the freezer and everything going?
So the biggest thing on a boat what uses power is making heat, and so domestic internal use is a bigger power user typically than cruising, so it depends on the customer's requirements internally. We would find 6 to 9 months of the year you'll probably be running just off the solar.
Okay.
And then you'd fall to generator usage when you're cruising very heavily, or in the really cold months.
And I know you were telling me that on this boat the Wi-Fi is active all the time because you can connect to it at any stage. So can the customer put the heating on, put the air conditioning on before coming so that the boat's nice and warm, or it stays dry through the winter, that sort of thing?
Yes, that's right. So most of the boat's controllable remotely, so that's heating, air conditioning, domestic hot water, even unlocking the boat can be done remotely.
Good. Thanks. Check my list here. Yeah, we had here's another shout out for Tom in Bradford, and he had a question of with the Finesse systems, the batteries and the motors, is there a warranty on the batteries? I guess because they're quite new technology for all of us in the public. Sort of what reassurance do your clients have about, you know, the durability of the batteries? How long do you think they'd last? How long are they warranted for? That sort of thing.
The warranty on the batteries and all the electric systems provided by us is 10 years.
10 years?
Yes, that's
wow.
right. So the motor itself and the batteries, 10-year warranty. The anticipated lifespan, even under heavy usage, so permanent liverboard, we'd expect 30 years out of the batteries themselves. And that's assuming you're not running sometimes just off the solar. So on sunny days you won't actually be using the battery, you'll be using your load straight from the solar panels itself.
Yeah. 30 years, wow. How old's the owner? And sorry to ask an embarrassing question. I'm completely happy if you don't want to answer and keep the confidentiality for your client, but I noticed that quite a few people were saying, well, how much is a boat like this? How would somebody find out what they'd need to spend to get a boat built with you at Finesse?
So all the usual channels. You can ask the question by social media on our Facebook page or by email or phone, and we take a rough specification from the customer, and that will give them an approximate guide price before we enter into exact specifications. So
in other words, call you and you'd be able to give them a guide straight away type thing?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, very good. Okay, good question from Foy in Sheffield. and he wanted to know, are the owners just going to use it as a houseboat? Is it one of those ones that's going to be moored up in London and never moves?
No, this boat's intended to cruise around for extended periods. So yeah, they'll be using, obviously living on board when they're on the boat, maybe stay in a spot for a few days, but the majority of the time they'll be cruising along like you are now, which is why we're keen to make the boat handle and perform well.
Yeah, great. And here's a good question from Ian in Canada, saying, could we show them the view from the front, from the driving position? KB in Cambridge, and they were asking, how noisy is it with the generator running? So could you start the generator for us remotely, Ricky, just to see if the microphone picks up, and we'll get an idea of what it sounds like as it starts and then when it's running. Oh wow, actually that's quieter than I expected, and I'm not sure how well that'll come out on the video, but I would say that's, well, would an equivalent, would that be about half the noise of a narrowboat diesel engine idling? What a great space it is out here, whether you're dining, whether you're just extending the deck for having more space, or even just so that when you're sitting outside you get a lovely view down the river or the canal. One of the questions on the last movie was to ask whether we could see the stern being used. So I'll use the controls by the display here. So the fact that I was standing on it shows how strong it is, and it just raises up by hydraulics, and then I fold the seat down so that you could all sit around in a comfortable way on the outside deck. Simple as that. And then of course with the stern up you get this fantastic deck area as a social space on the boat. We were asked to show you how the piano came out of the TV cabinet. We speeded this little bit up a tiny bit. It takes about 20 seconds to raise the piano up on the electric motor, and then the legs go down. Kind of looks a bit like a harpsichord to support the weight, and then the piano keyboard's revealed and the music stand gets put in place, ready to play. Quite a cool feature. What was the coffee table in the lounge also doubles up as a piano stool, music in there, that sort of thing. Turn over for the cushion, in place. Now let's see, I can embarrass myself and try and play a tune. Well, maybe not Bridge Over Troubled Water. Well, here we are down on the Thames. Our time has come to a close as the boat is at the marina ready for Ricky to do the handover. And I've had a wonderful couple of days with Ricky here down on the Thames, enjoying this beautiful boat. If you've not seen part one of the movies, check out the inside of the boat, as several 100,000 people have done, and you'll see why I've enjoyed it so much these last few days. I've enjoyed the gentle sailing of quiet electrics, and it's kind of like the sailing that you might do on a wide beam down on the Thames, but the serenity of the electrics, the manoeuvrability of the boat, and the quality of the fit out has made it a fantastic experience. So my thanks for Ricky for including me in that. You might like to know that I've seen a couple of really special narrowboats in the workshop at Finesse, so look out for that. We'll put a review of one of those boats up in the coming months. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, as I've been on Time of Life, the Wide Beam Yacht Discovery from Finesse Boats at Sheffield.